Welcome, gamers, to Basement Arcade Pause Menu, the show where we hit pause on the game, sit back, and just chill. I'm Ben Magnet, and I'm, of course, joined by Brandon T. McClure.
Well, Ben, this is quite the facelift.
Isn't it? I think this is an upgrade.
I think so,
overall, vocally, face-wise, an improvement. No, of course I am. If you're listening to this on the audio side, I am Sparkz Witty. We've taken the show away from Ben because Ben didn't play this game.
He still hasn't, has he?
He still has not. We are talking today about the Miles Morales PlayStation Spider-Man game, the follow-up to the Spider-Man PlayStation game that we talked about recently, ish, a year ago, right?
I think it was more than a year ago.
Was it really? Well, sometime within the recent history of Pause Menu, we talked about the Spider-Man game, and that was late, and this is late, and this is late because, well, life, and then also because we were waiting for people to play the game. In this case, it was me. I refused to play the game until I had a PlayStation 5 to play it on. I don't regret that decision. I stand by it.
I mean, I replayed it on the PlayStation 5. It's very fun.
Yeah, I wanted my first experience to be there. So I held out. That was actually still a long time ago. And then it was just like coordinating. And ultimately we were originally going to have Ryan on it. And we lost Ryan because Ryan doesn't think there's much value in talking about a game he hasn't touched in a while, which I understand. Mm-hmm. So we're going to do the talking about this Miles Morales game, which I'm not throwing Ryan under the bus. Ryan says this is like Spider-Man 1.5. I would call it more like Spider-Man 1.8. I think there's a little bit more meat on the bones to the game than that. But I also understand why he's saying so. Like this is not the full venture that the first Spider-Man was in terms of like length and content, but I would argue is just as equal in emotional value.
Yeah, I mean, this was meant to be a DLC,
right?
Before they decided to make it its own game, and I think that was probably smart. I think kind of you're changing the engine a bit. You're making Miles a little bit less fluid than Peter, not by much, but you are. You're giving different powers. It was smart to just kind of like ground up. This is a different game. We're not going to add this to the Spider-Man game, but it's not as lengthy. But I think it still packs a pretty good punch.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I think by the nature of it being able to tell a tighter story, they made sure that all of the things related to Miles' character are relevant. I also think that it benefits from being slightly smaller scale, right? Mm-hmm. That I can believe this is a story where Peter Parker doesn't feel like he has to get involved.
Yeah. I mean, and there's even times where you're swinging around and Peter will call you and he'd be like, hey, do I need to come back? And Miles like, no, I got this.
Right. And I feel like it's just convincingly on the down low enough that Peter wouldn't make that decision without Miles.
Yeah.
Right. Like anything slightly more up going on in the city, like Peter's got to come back.
Yeah, I mean, if this was like another Sinister Six, I think Peter would definitely be like, okay, yeah, I'm coming back.
Right, like if what you're saying is like Peter's on vacation, and then Peter's like, oh, that's really, really serious. I need to get back into town, or like taking place over a slightly longer period of time, and he's seeing that things are ramping up in the city. Like, I think it allows them the very valid excuse of Peter trusting Miles.
Yeah.
And of course, it does escalate to a like pretty catastrophic situation, but that's only right at the very end, and so it's like it's properly paced out.
Yeah, I think you can see where the.
Go ahead. I would make an argument that when Miles' mom is at the speech and it gets attacked, that goes. I know Peter's still like, that's around a moment where Peter does a call in and he's like, Miles, everything okay? And Miles is like, yeah, it's fine. I'd be like, as Peter, I'd be like, I don't know. I feel like Morales at public events are always a little dangerous after what happened with his dad. So maybe I come back anyway, but that's the only moment in the movie where I'm like, I don't know, Peter. I think I might come back after his mom was at one public event that went sour.
I think that you can kind of see the DLC in this a little bit. In the beginning specifically with because it bounces off of the Silver Sable, which is the last DLC that did.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, you know, hey, we're gonna go to Silver Sable's country now. Mary Jane and I are gonna go, and we're kind of like, you know, we don't really know what we are anymore, so we still get a hint of like their relationship, and like the reason why they're doing this is because of what happened at the end of that Silver Sable DLC. So you do you do kind of like bounce from there to there, which I thought was a nice little through line. It creates a nice little momentum for the series.
Sure, I agree with that. Yeah, I think that the way we get to know Miles' world is better this way than through a DLC chapter,
Mm-hmm.
because we actually spend time with his mom, Gank, his uncle, which I really love
Yeah.
his uncle's inclusion.
I was surprised that he was included in this. Actually, I thought he'd be something for like Spider-Man 2.
Honestly, when he first showed up, I thought for like a very small amount of time, I was like, oh, is he like, maybe he's not the Prowler?
Yeah,
Like maybe he's just an estranged uncle. Maybe like had crime stuff, but like not the Prowler.
not yet.
And then they
at
went like
least.
yeah. And then they went like full blown, like, no, he's the Prowler. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
Not that I'm against that. I just like the way they introduced it, I thought was very like organic. I think it benefited from like not having thrown the Prowler in our face before.
yeah, I think so. You have this thing where it's like, Aaron, right? Uncle Aaron, yeah, Aaron. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to teach you how what happened to me and your father. I'm going to show you what happened through these musical recordings that they would do, and I thought that was a really fun inclusion. And I know that we're introduced to the Prowler in the beginning of that one, but it's like it's cool to be like, oh, the reason why Jefferson and Aaron split was because of the Prowler.
Right. That is one of my favorite bullshit quest lines in these games, because obviously I say bullshit because, like, you know, it's there to just give you more content, make you go do things. They're fetch quests.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that it's informing not just on Aaron's relationship with Miles' father, but on Aaron's view of morality and what his relationship with Miles is now, because of him asking him to go get these samplings, is so well integrated, that it's like, it's one of those where I'm like, I want to go find this. I want to hear what Aaron has to say. I want to hear what this thing is. And doing it through like music sample stuff was just a cool idea, and the way you got to find the sound.
Yeah, because it connects to Miles, who is interested in making that kind of music through that way, and it creates the turn when Aaron like tries to take Miles out of the equation, not like kill him, but like try to keep him away from what's happening. It creates more drama for that. Like you understand where Aaron is coming from because you've got all that context. It informs it in an interesting way.
Yeah, I think they do a really good job of making everything you do feel like it's Miles doing it, not Peter doing it.
Yeah.
So that it really feels like this kind of quest belongs to Miles, not to Peter. Speaking of, let's talk about how they integrate his electric shock type powers.
Really like it.
Yeah, I think they do a good job of him slowly uncovering it, slowly finding the ways to work it into the combos. It's nice because it makes it so that you're playing a game that's very much like the first Spider-Man, like an origin game, and you're unlocking abilities, but it really works into the narrative, how you're building those abilities. Everything about it is such an organic introduction. I think that's one of the lovely things about this game, is that you could play this and not play the original Spider-Man.
Sure, yeah.
And like you get like grooved back into the system. It's not expecting you to know things for the gameplay. It just takes you on through it. It's almost in some ways an even better introduction gameplay wise.
Yeah, because you kind of have this thing where it's like, if this was the DLC, like then people wouldn't necessarily come to this, but you can come to this without having played Spider-Man, and you can experience just a completely different story. And if you know anything about Spider-Man, then that's really it. You're first introduced to his Venom Blast through the fight with Rhino.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so like Peter is down and out, and then all of a sudden you've got this big surge of power. And that you're right, that's such a good way to kind of show that Miles is different from Peter, that it has a different gameplay mechanic than Peter, and that he can take, I mean, Peter can't take Rhino in a fist fight 1-to-1, but Miles can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. The differentiation's really good. God, that opening sequence is so good.
When you're going through the mall?
Yeah.
Just that's awesome.
The whole opening action piece of taking on Rhino as Peter and Miles go together is just so good. It's one of those things where a lot of the game is good. You're always kind of chasing the high of the opening sequences, just because they do such a. I get why. Like, it's always like they're getting you into the game right away. This is true of the previous Spider-Man. Like the whole thing going after Fisk, like it just feels good to be going through the narrative and taking those things down. And not that to say that the game doesn't like achieve that high again, but that's like the high you're always chasing. It's like, oh yeah, let me get into the chase, let me get into the narrative. There's something about like the tension of those moments that only come like once or twice again in the game. That's fine, they should be paced out, but like those moments are so good.
And it keeps you going. It keeps you wanting to do side quests. It keeps you wanting to do them because you never know what's going to turn into what's going to turn into the next kind of big set piece.
Sure. Yeah.
There's the scene. Sorry, there's the scene we finally get to see. We finally get to see J. Jonah Jameson briefly in the opening when Rhino bursts through his office, and you just see him in a Santa suit, and he's like, "Oh, Spider-Man!"
I genuinely forgot about that, but I know what you're talking about now. That's very good. I don't even think I took a note about that, but good pull.
There's a few J. Jonah Jameson bits that I like in this, because you have the ability to. I didn't realize you had this in the first Spider-Man game, but you have the ability to turn him off. Like, you don't need to listen to him. But in the narrative, Miles also listens to another podcast, Danica.
Yes.
And so you have these two kind of podcast narratives going through that I really like. And it's in the credits of this one where I believe, I'm remembering now. Jonah has put in a request to get like a burrito or a pizza in the Spider-Man app, because this game has a mechanic where you can do the app and you can find quests like that through the app. And he's like, I put in this thing and Spider-Man's not gonna, no test, too small, blah, blah. And then you hear Miles show up with the thing. And it's like, thanks, Jonah, bye.
Yeah.
That was a fun bit.
It's good. I think that they use those podcast bits very well. I think they do a good gag of acknowledging pretty early on that Miles thinks of Jameson's podcast as toxic. He's like, I don't understand why Peter has to listen to this all the time.
Yeah.
Which is like your cue as the person playing the game that's like, if you want to turn this off, it's fine.
Yeah.
Because it's really Peter's thing. It's Peter's thing because he's, masochistic and he wants to hear Jameson shit talking Spider-Man. Whereas Miles as a character, like, what is the character trait realistically? Like, obviously I left the Jameson stuff on because I wanted to hear it. But the reality is, like, Miles should just turn that shit off. That's what Miles would do. Miles wouldn't even give it the time of day. That's why the Danica podcast is so cool, because he's just like, oh, let's find something else to listen to. Oh, this sounds cool. And that Danica is basically the entire opposite of Jameson, and that's exactly the kind of thing that Miles would want to listen to. Right, exactly. And then, I left it on too, because like you get the two of them, the two podcasts intersect. Yes. And like, so Danica and Jameson would have like a crossover. Yes. So if you lived in the wonderful old world where we got to keep the original Peter face on the previous Spider-Man game, you no longer get to live in that world anymore. No, you don't. This game. And I hate it. I hate that face so much. It doesn't match his voice. No, it really doesn't. It's like, no offense to Yuri Lowenthal. He's got a great voice. Mm-hmm. Like,
I've seen tons of his voice acting work. It's an ugly voice. Like, no offense to him, but like that face works for that voice. This face doesn't. This face is too young. It's too pretty.
I don't even think it's necessarily that it's ugly. It's just it sounds older than this baby face looks.
Yeah.
I understand that they're trying to convey that this Spider-Man is younger than we anticipated, but I'm also like, but the Spider-Man's been going for a while. Like, I don't think it was a problem that we viewed him as older, especially compared to Miles.
Yeah.
He just looks too young for the voice. The face model looks too young for Yuri's voice.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I know that the developers are like, we all interpreted Peter as like 28, maybe 30. But like the developers are like, no, he's supposed to be like 23. And like that's why they changed the face. And like I mean, 23-year-olds who get beat up all the time could look really shitty.
But it's also more than that. Like, it feels just so much more like we just want to look like Tom Holland. And I hate to say that, but like, it's not like they took the original face and de-aged it a few years. No. That's not what it looks like. They just scrubbed on a whole new face that, frankly, looks more Tom Holland adjacent than the previous face. And I just thought the previous face already worked, and this one doesn't. Like, every time he's talking, I'm just like, please just put on the mask. I don't want to look at your face anymore.
Oh yeah, when he's got the mask on, like I'm totally fine.
Oh,
it's
like, fine. Yeah, it's not a problem with the voice. It's because I never had a problem with the voice. It's this new baby face that I'm like, no, this is not the face that matches this voice.
Did you know that Yuri Lowenthal was Spider-Man in the Amazing Spider-Man game?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Overall, I think that they have incredible cinematic moments throughout the game with music and framing and how they do things. Like they're bringing their A game from the previous Spider-Man to this one. This was not just like a cash grab. They put the hard work into this.
Yeah, I agree. You get a lot of love put into this, and like not just like the cinematic moments, which are always great, but like in the city itself, specifically Harlem, where Miles has just moved. And so it's like he's trying to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but the neighborhood's not crazy about this new Spider-Man. And throughout the story, you get to see how the city is changing in favor of Miles.
Mm-hmm.
How they're starting to love him more. And I think that shows a lot of how the developers really wanted to just kind of drive home the fact that they also really love Miles Morales, and they really wanted to showcase what's so cool about that character. And I kind of felt the same way about that playing this game as I did with Into the Spider-Verse, right? Where it's like these two narratives that are very different clearly love this character of Miles Morales and really want to show you why that character is really cool.
Right. Yeah. To your point, I think they do a very good job of taking the same mechanics that exist in the previous game, but they still feel like new and fresh. Web slinging doesn't feel you're doing the same thing, but it feels different going through Miles.
Yeah, it doesn't feel quite as refined.
Yeah, and that's okay because it shouldn't. And all the combat choices feel very, very unique and different to Miles.
It doesn't feel like we've slapped on a Miles skin over a Peter body. And that's what was really exciting to me. You know, I looked at for comparison, Arkham Origins. Arkham Origins is basically a clone of Arkham City, to the point that they just kind of slowed down the combat to be like, it's Origin. But they don't do that here. They don't slow down the combat. They don't slow down the web swinging. They kind of make the web swinging look a little bit more flaily as he's going. And the combat is still fluid, but it's fluid in specifically Miles's direction. It's specific to Miles.
Yes. I think they do a great job of that. The way that you uncover how to do things, the training segments with hologram Peter, I thought was very creative.
The Vulture one's very funny when he's just like, and then a second Vulture.
I really love the finale of doing all the hologram Peter trainings. That it takes you to his first day at university, his fight with the Vulture. It's a little bit of his history that he's recreating. I thought that was very cute. I thought that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we get to know Peter throughout. We get to know a little bit about Peter as well. Kind of enhances the first game.
And like the dialogue is not Vulture. The dialogue is Peter's interpretation of Vulture. So it's like really stupid. I thought that was very funny.
When he's just like, and then all of a sudden, the second vulture. Actually, this might not have happened, but it felt like there were two vultures.
Yeah. I thought that was really good.
Oh, there's a subplot where Fisk has a subplot, right? It's the there's a mafia around, not the Tinkerers people, but it's someone else trying to take over places in Harlem. And just around New York City, and then you have this thing where it's like you kind of go into this garage, and then it's like, who's been doing all this? Oh, it's Fisk from prison.
Right. Yes. Yeah. You get the reveal of him on a screen. I'm trying to remember exactly who did that. Maybe I have it in my notes somewhere here.
It has been a little while since we played this.
Yeah.
So I was excited to see that character come back.
I just passed the note. The Vulture challenges. Metaphorical twin brother Vulture. That's how Peter refers to him.
It's a really good moment.
In general, there's just a lot of great side missions in this one that you didn't get before. Things like the Lost Cat, or clearing ice off a crane with the web shooters.
Yeah, that's the thing I alluded to before with like the app, which I really enjoyed. With those, it's like you got the Spider-Man app, this friendly neighborhood app, and people can ask for help. And the bodega guy who doesn't like Peter, who doesn't like Miles, he's like, no, Spider-Man's my boy. And he's like, I don't care for this new Spider-Man. And then you get this like, hey, my cat's missing, which is a great suit that you can play with the cat. It's awesome.
Yes, I think that's really cool. I think like going back to like breaking the crane out of the ice, like the weather stuff, the day and night and weather variety of this game gives it a lot more. Well, I said the word variety. It gives it a lot more of a dynamic range than the first game had, just because they're playing with so many different elements, and it's really nice. It's a really nice experience because it feels different and it feels good. Yeah,
it feels kind of Christmassy. Obviously, it's meant to, but like with the suits being able to play with that, like there's the one suit that you get from the deaf girl, which I really liked her. I really liked her character.
Haley. So I did find the note. It's the side mission chain with her that leads to the Fisk reveal.
That's right. Yes.
Yes, and she gives you the scarf and beanie after that. Fun fact, that forced me out of my hooded skin to put it on, because up to that point I'd been doing the one with the hood.
Oh, sure.
For a while, because I was like, it's winter, he has a hood.
Wait, is that the one with the? Is that the one? Is that the end? The Miles Morales the end suit where it's got like the shorts?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But because I got to that point, you get the scarf and beanie, and so it's like, in cutscenes you're usually in the hooded one.
Mm-hmm.
Because he puts it on for her for that moment, it forced me back into the regular suit, because it's like, no, you can't do that. Scarf and beanie. We're not putting it over the hood. It's gonna look stupid. They do a good job of maintaining whatever you decide throughout the narrative for the most part.
I agree. I kept the Into the Spider-Verse suit on all the time.
Yeah.
That was my favorite one. I only, not like recently, because it's been a while since I played the game, but like I kind of just found out there was a Into the Spider-Verse suit for Peter B. Parker in Spider-Man. And I didn't know that, but it doesn't come with the
animation.
The animation. That's the Miles Morales thing. And I was like, that's really fun.
No, it is fun. I really enjoy it. I only spent, I think I only spent one small section of side missions doing it while I was playing the narrative game, and then I pretty much saved the Spider-Verse suit for post game, post narrative, because that's me, and I like to keep within a certain amount of my own bubble of like narrative stuff when I'm doing it, of like, this is how why he would change the costume here, and this is what he'd be doing here, and that kind of thing, and like I like to keep locked into that. And so I was like, Spider-Verse is fun, that's cool, it's its own thing, I'm gonna mess with that later. But that's how I play games.
Actually, I kind of feel the same way. Like, oftentimes, I like to stay in the suit. If I'm doing like narrative stuff, I like to stay in the narrative suit because that's the one that the narrative mostly is built to interact with. And a cool thing about what this game does is that all of the suits, except for the scarf bit, interact the same way narratively.
Right.
So, like, for example, if you're in the rocks on place and you're like absorbing all the energy and it explodes out of you, you still get that orange color in his chest for every suit that you're in.
Right. Yeah, and that's very much where like I don't want to look at the Spider-Verse suit while I'm doing it, so I keep in the that's me. That's how I play. I'm a dork. But but I'm glad that it encourages like any of that dynamic type of play. The friendly neighborhood app that game creates is really cool. I think it's a good way to include the side mission stuff. I think that's really fun. I think they'll have a hard time going backwards without it. Even if you're playing as Peter, I feel like Peter just also has to use that app now.
I do too. I think it's a mechanic for the next game.
It feels like it has to be. It feels like it'd be a step backward.
Yeah.
To not use it, and it wouldn't make narrative sense. Like if Peter finds out that Miles has this, why wouldn't Peter also hop on to answer things? It'd even be cool if like you're seeing like more than you could possibly answer, and there are some that are meant to pop up and say Miles did this. Like the app gets sophisticated enough so Peter can see Miles got this one. And so like you can check on through. I hope that they do something like that because I don't want to see that mechanic go away just because we're going to be bouncing between the two Spider-Men.
I agree because the thing that I really like about that app is that it's really fun swinging around. I really love the swinging mechanic in both of these games. And what the app allows me to do is to help the average person. And I think that's kind of what the first game was missing, was that not necessarily that you didn't do that, but you kind of had to find them, right? Sure. You just kind of were swinging around and they were and you found them. But here there's a deliberate moment where you can just be like, you know what, I'm just going to go help people. And you just kind of go through that list and there's constantly things to do. And I think that's really a really good mechanic that I'd hate to lose.
Yeah. I really can't see them backtracking off of it. I can see them altering it or improving it, but not abandoning it. It wouldn't make sense narratively to me. And it certainly wouldn't make sense mechanically to back away from that idea.
Yeah.
Let's see. I really like the rogue helicopter missions that come up. I think
the ones with
where they get hacked.
Yeah.
I think those are fun. I thought those were really cool new feeling things because like, and it's fine. There's an amount of like, you're fighting new enemies. We got the Tinker's gang and all that. You're fighting these new enemies, but there's still, I landed on this roof, got beat up these guys. There's still a decent amount of that, and that's fine. But I'm glad that there were things like the helicopter missions, new enemy type encounters that felt really, really different and new.
There's a new thing that I didn't care for, which was I don't like Roxxon's guys. I wasn't crazy about Roxxon's paramilitary troop, and then when you just had like in the middle of the street, Roxxon's guys fighting the Tinkerer's guys, and it's just you got to take out both of them. I found that to be a bit more laborious than I wanted it to be.
I don't know if I felt that way, but I can appreciate it. It felt like it was just the next step of like fighting the Sables team when they were fighting like criminals at the same time, like Hammerhead's group or whatever.
Yeah.
Sorry, not Hammerhead. What's his name?
Mr. Negative.
No, I'm thinking of the DLC.
Tombstone?
Yes, Tombstone. Thank you. Tombstone's men are fighting Sable's group in the city, and you show up. You got to take them both out.
Sure.
So it kind of reminded me of that. I hear you. I felt like those moments weren't in it enough to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think what is becoming like, all right, so the city's just like okay with paramilitary groups just coming in and handling things, I guess.
A lot of paramilitary groups.
It's a big thing with this game where like they really just had to back all the way off of cops.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to put cops in this as little as possible. They really tried.
Because this was post all that. They were like,
It was like in development while it was happening, and they're like, I mean, I know Miles' dad was a cop. I think we maybe need to back all the way up the police.
But then you
I
get
think
things.
it's going to be something they're going to struggle with going forward.
I do too, because you still like
you're so cop friendly in the original.
But like even like Spider-Man is cop friendly in general. It's like it's kind of the same problem that Batman falls into, right? The Batman like fell into this issue because like Batman works with cops, like the good ones, not the corrupt ones, but so does Spider-Man.
Yeah, this is always a thing with like Miles' dad being a cop.
Yeah.
Now is but I do mean like just specifically for analyzing the games, like the first Spider-Man game, you have many missions where like you're doing a thing and you go and you meet up with like a cop guy to give you information about Felicia or to land on a roof and deliver some criminal stuff or whatever. Like you're constantly checking in with the police, and they really went like, Miles isn't going to check in with the police as much, guys. Just don't worry about it. Miles is going to check in with the police as much because they're very good altruistic cops, and there's just not going to be the Spider-Man story in these games that's like, what if the cops aren't so good?
Yeah,
it's not gonna happen.
And you kind of have a little bit of an analogy when it comes to like, because Miles has just moved into Harlem and they're like, yeah, superheroes don't come up this way. Kind of like saying like, cops don't come up this way. Like we're just kind of left to our own devices, and like Miles is like, well, I'll be the Spider-Man for Harlem. And like that's kind of what that is kind of meant to convey is a little bit of that anti-cop kind of ideal, but they're never really going to dive into it.
Right.
Like ever. Right.
And I mean, like, they'll constantly keep the one thing about this game that like, it's fine. I'm already prepared for it with the next one is that, we're going to keep getting those paramilitary groups, but they're never going to be the police. They're always going to be like that. Man, what if like this really intense, like had all the money for these resources and like harass the public with their power people were running around New York City and we had to deal with them all the time. But don't worry, they're not the cops. There's something else.
That's the same thing that I always hated that I started hating about Batman, right? Like Batman did an event recently called Fear State that I just couldn't give a shit about because it was just another paramilitary group came to Gotham. And it's like, what are we doing with these privatized militaries coming into these cities just to harass a superhero? This is illegal.
I think that's a valid point. I think Batman always plays in slightly a better range for this, only because Batman comes from the angle that like most cops suck. Most of the time just because Gotham is bad. And so for Gotham to be so bad, most of the like regardless of the fact that it wasn't trying to say anything necessarily about like the police force in general, like it's saying Gotham's cops have to be bad for the city to be this bad. So those cops are bad, but at least we can acknowledge most of those cops are bad. So that they leave themselves open to that kind of stuff. Here in these games, like we're probably going to get a different type of paramilitary group in the next one. I will be genuinely pleasantly surprised and shocked if we don't, but we probably will. And they won't be the police. They'll be something else. Because they will.
Who could they be?
The Roxxon and Sable people have gotten Tinker technology and they've merged.
Oh, don't kill me now.
But I mean, like that's that is their answer to it, is that we're saying like these are like out of control cops, but don't worry, they're not cops. But they act like they're not.
Yeah, like, I agree.
Yeah, all right, I hear you.
We haven't talked about Tinker as people though.
No, we haven't. I really like Finn. I like that there's this connection built up between her and Miles. I think they do a pretty good job with bringing it in, that they have this vendetta against Roxxon. Is like, it does feel a little like this all happened very quickly, but I accept it.
Yeah, we don't really have the real estate to dive into that, but I really do appreciate there's a few flashbacks, like the time capsule. I think the time capsule are another fun shorthand that gets you to learn more about Finn and about what happened. So like you have it was Finn's brother, right, who died
Yes.
in Roxanne, and so like you get that with a flashback, and then you get more flashbacks when you're in the science center that definitely did not exist in that first game.
What are you talking about?
You know, the one that's just on the water for some reason.
It was obviously still there in the first game.
Oh, sure. When there's the flashback where they're just like, yeah, when we were kids, and then there's like Osborne, there's like Peter and
Otto,
and like I thought that was a cool flashback, but I was like, yeah, this was not in the first game.
That was cute, but I was watching it and I was like, oh man, there's Otto and some random baby-faced child. That's weird.
That's a really good point, because I had forgotten about the new face when I was playing. I was like, oh right, that's Peter.
Right, yeah. I did. Like, by the time that scene came up, I was like, who the oh.
It's cool that they got Otto somewhere, though. I really like the Otto relationship from the first game, so it was kind of nice to...
Oh, yeah, it's cute. It's a cute nod. Little on the nose. It's a cute nod.
Yeah. I really did like going through that. I know I joke about the Science Center thing. Like, I don't mind that we'll just retcon that's always been there. But like, I like
it has always been there.
Oh, you're right.
We just couldn't go in it in the first game.
We just couldn't see it either. It was invisible.
You just got to believe that it's there, and then you can see it.
Right, of course. But I did like going through and seeing all the exhibits and being able to play with some of the exhibits, and how Finn and Miles were able to use one of the exhibits to help them get to their project. All that was really fun.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good puzzle stuff in general in this game. I like the new send a web to a node, attach it to another node, find the path to move power. I think that's a good puzzle. I think they do a lot of good stuff with that. I was gonna say I passed one of my notes and we were talking about the cop representation. They really ramped up, and I thought it was nice. The EMT and firefighter. Representation. So there's a lot more interaction with EMTs and firefighters for your missions, and I thought that was cool. Like, they were like, okay, we're gonna pull back on the cops, so let's put more not so problematic groups representing, and that actually made for like different interactions, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that was neat too. Going back to the Tinkerer. Yes. I like that they made the Tinkerer Finn. Yeah, for the most part. I like that we get a personal relationship between the hero and villain, not just the same relationship that like Otto and Peter had, but like something that like they have the same goals, but they went on two completely different paths. Right. But I still think you run into an issue that we've talked about before, like to the extreme of like Flag Smasher, where it's like, well, it's got to do a murder.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yes, that's my problem. I really love all the Finn stuff up to a point. Yeah. And I think I'm pretty confident I have a note about it. Hold on. Not sure the path to Finn being completely unreachable was earned. Yeah. The way that she drives herself away from Miles, I'm like, this feels like I'm a bad guy because I have to, because it's reasonable. She's doing something good to fight something bad, even if she's doing it maybe in morally gray ways. Mm-hmm. But most of what the Tinkerers groups are doing is hacking and like things that are only hurting Roxanne specifically, mostly. And then she finds out that Miles is Spider-Man. And rather than that being able to change her mind at all or make her rethink her approach or anything like that, she just goes full blown, no, F it all. F it. Whatever stops Roxanne, F it. And I'm like, that doesn't feel real to the flashback relationship we're getting developed between her and Miles, that this is how she would be.
And the thing is, when you get to the point where she's smart, she's a very intelligent person. She's just as smart as Miles, smarter even. When she's presented with evidence, hey, if you do this, it's going to wipe out not just all of Harlem, but a good chunk of this city. Yeah. And she's like, no, I don't care. She doesn't say I don't care, but she says no, it won't. I've planned this already, and blah blah blah. She wants, like, the writers wanted her to be Killmonger, which is a villain that is on the separate path that actually does change the hero. But you end up getting her more in the Flag Smasher area because, but it doesn't quite get there. It doesn't quite work in either space. And then you do have the good ending where she sacrifices herself.
Yeah, I mean, and that's cool, but also, like, you sit there and you're like, that shouldn't have happened. That shouldn't have had to happen. And it does go against, I think that's the thing, is like the finale of it does go against all the character stuff you've been building with her that makes her like a connection. I think there was a way to tell a tragic story without doing that. And the thing is that, like, ultimately it's that while Roxxon is bad and Krieger is wonderfully gross and a bad person, and even brings out the Rhino again, which is cool, the Roxxon Rhino. Krieger's not allowed to be the true villain. They still make Finn the villain for this game. And that shouldn't have happened. Finn should not have been the true villain of the game once you get to the end.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. Like, they should have been willing to let go of that idea. Like, she can still sacrifice herself for Miles, all this other kind of, but like, it should have been Krieger. It should have been Krieger and the Rhino as your, like, final confrontation big villains.
Yeah. I
agree. And Finn should not have been the person who had to carry the weight of the main villain for the game, because when you get to the end of it, like, that just forces bad character stuff to happen to her.
Yeah, and it just, again, you just kind of go to, I don't want to have to feel like when I'm playing this game that when Miles is yelling, hey, if you do this, half of New York City is going to be destroyed. And she says, no, I don't want to be looking at her being like, you're just an idiot.
Right.
Right. Because, like, I don't think that way before now. Like, I watched this character and I'm like, I see the path he went down on. I see why you're so motivated to destroy Roxxon, and I'm with you. I have sympathy for this. And I feel like there is the place where, like, Miles can relate to her and try to find a way back. But you're right. As soon as she finds out that Miles is Spider-Man, that path is completely closed off and it doesn't feel earned.
Right. Like, she just, the distrust because Miles didn't tell her. And I'm like, Miles told you. Like, when he needed to, he told you.
Yeah.
He worked his way. Like what he didn't need to tell you before. I do like that reveal. The she's gonna kill him. Or whatever, and he says, my mom would be very upset if you do that, and pulls off the mask. Yeah. And that's how Finn finds out. I thought that was very good. That's a good chase.
There's some good Tinkerer action beats that create a lot of interesting stuff. Like, there's the bridge, obviously, which is really great. The bridge sequence is I think my favorite in the game. And then there's the chase that you're talking about. And I do really like... Okay, this is going to sound weird. So I personally do not like the way nanotechnology is being used in media right now. I think it is a really horrible crutch that is creating this weird magic technology that just kind of makes things appear out of nowhere. But I think the Tinkerer stuff is really, when it's, like, fully formed, I think it's really colorful and unique in its design, and that kind of way I really enjoy it, because it creates these, especially in, like, the action set pieces like the chase, it creates these really interesting colors and this really nice dynamic with how the gameplay works.
Yeah, I think I'm always slightly more accepting of it in video games.
Sure.
Just in general, like, I'm like the different demands, I guess, of the medium. I agree, though. I think it makes it look. They make it look cool. They make it look different and stylish.
Yeah, there's, like, the Roxxon weapons are all really unique and something I haven't really seen before in anything. It creates this idea that not only did a scientific genius create these, but also a creative mind.
Yeah. And just like the colors that you were bringing up, like that they bring to the game, like the Roxxons have the reds and the yellows, the Tinkers have the purples. The purples are really nice. They're very nice and different. And all this clashes against Miles' yellow that he brings with his Venom strikes.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of really interesting color in this game that wasn't necessarily needed in the first game, because there are colors in the first game, but I think this game was able to play with them in a really interesting and dynamic way.
Yeah. I made this note because we're kind of talking around the same vicinity. The battle against Roxxon Rhino with Finn, where Finn is teaming with Miles and doing it. I'm like, this is the end. This is it. This is the finale of the game. Because now we have Finn working with Miles fighting the real villain.
Yeah.
Like the weapon of the real villain.
And they've talked. They've talked, right. And they've kind of like gotten to a point of mutual respect again.
And I'm like, if they just made all of this section a little more robust, this is it. Like this is the climactic battle of the game. But no, it had to be that Finn leaves, even though there's really good development done in that scene that leads to her beating Miles.
Yeah, I was going to say that, like, in the scene when they like are escaping the Roxxon lab and they're always talking to each other, and they're all the dialogue is just about like, how could you do this? What would you do? And they're explaining each other's point of views, and they're finding the mutual ground. It all leads to a place that the story all of a sudden tells you, never mind.
Yeah, that's the problem, is that, like, I think the development there is done well, and Finn attacking Miles there works for me. It's that when they next meet, and Miles, as you brought up, Miles being like, you will hurt many people. Like, this is very bad. And she's just like, talk to the hand, because girl ain't listening. And I'm like, come on, man. Come on. We are better than this with our characters. The story is better than this with its characters. Yeah, it just kind of becomes... It's very much the Carly Flag Smasher treatment, as you said. Well, yeah,
and she doesn't have the excuse that honestly even Flag Smasher has, which is that the super soldier serum could make you a little crazy. Like, you know, Otto had the arms that were driving him up the wall because they were the way that they incorporated him. Yeah, I know what I said. Yeah, I know. So, like, you know, he had the arms that were influencing his decisions.
Sure.
You know, heightening his anger. Carly had the super soldier serum that you can conceivably say probably did that. Wanda had the Darkhold. Like, there's all these narrative reasons that could explain a character going off the edge that Tinkerer Finn does not have.
Right. In fact, they have the counter argument stuff, which is that, like, of all people, they should listen to Miles because they have a long and trusted relationship.
Yes.
Which you've been watching unfold in flashbacks. Very well done flashbacks. And it's like, man.
Why'd we have to do that?
Yeah.
That said, though, the ending is very cinematic.
Oh, no, it is. Absolutely. And there's an amount where, like, you're going for that feeling in a sense because you want the tragedy to hit.
Yeah.
But the problem is that the tragedy feels a little bit hollow when it's like, I mean, she should have been able to be convinced, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, this shouldn't have gone this way logically.
Also, there's I like her sacrifice. I think it's a good sacrifice. I think it's a good moment that they share together. And you could have had that moment in a different place, though. Like, you could have her dying and like Krieger kills her or something. You could still have that moment.
I think even the same way, like if Krieger sent a thing that was gonna cause the whole thing to blow up, right?
Yeah.
And had ramped it up and it got out of control, and Miles took it, and then she kept him from blowing up the city. Like, that would have worked. Very bold of them to take the ending of the first season of Heroes and apply it to a video game, but I thought it was good.
Oh my god. You're right. Just whoosh.
Explosion comes, flies him up.
Man. Yeah, but like outside of that, like I like the kind of, one of the things that the first game does really well is that New York feels like a character, and then this situation, like Harlem, feels like a character. Like you get very much like people
a different character from the first
Yes.
game, which is really nice.
And you get the people that you've met, that you've interacted with, that you've helped through the app or through the just various things. You get these people at Roxxon for the final battle, and you know, like, okay, it gives a face to, like, these are the people I'm saving, and they're helping him on, and they want him to succeed. And I know his mom finds out that it's Miles, but does the rest of them do?
The rest of them meaning rest of them who?
The rest of the people that were in that crowd watching him fight, watching him drain the Roxxon orb. I know his mom finds out.
Right. But his mom already knew.
That's right.
Because she finds out after Finn beats his butt at Roxxon before that.
Right.
So she's like, she's being protective of him in that moment. I think a couple people see his face, but they don't necessarily know who he is.
Right.
But yeah, so she's the one who goes up and, like, because doesn't she? It's been a bit. Doesn't she like only refer to him as Spider-Man?
I think
when
so.
She goes up to him rather than as Miles, and like helps him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like covers his face. Yeah, it's coming back to me now.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job with the reveal to his mom. I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, I'm glad they did.
Me too.
You know, it kind of creating these differences between Miles in the Miles and Peter is that, Aunt May, we find out, knew on her deathbed, and and we don't get, it's not going to be the same situation here. But also, one of the things that I do also really enjoy is kind of how Miles has been adapted now. None of the adaptations of Miles Morales have been a one-to-one. They're obviously inspired by the original Ultimate Comics that he was in, but Peter's dead in those. And so every time when we get Peter involved in Miles, which we've had now twice, they've had to rework the origin, and I think they've done it in a really good and organic way that keeps true to why Miles is such a unique Spider-Man.
Right.
Not just like as far as powers go, but as far as like who he is as a person, that you're able to bounce him off of Peter, that you didn't really get the chance to in Ultimates because Peter was dead.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. Yeah, I think that they've done a good job giving him that while not taking Peter off the board.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Uncle Aaron.
Yeah.
I think they do a lot of great Uncle Aaron work. I think we do rush through some of the Prowler stuff a little fast, specifically like the uncle reveal and all that. It just moves a little too quick in the story. It's a little bit of an afterthought almost.
Yeah. It does feel more like a side mission than, because he is part of the main mission, but it feels more like a side mission.
But it does until it gets to the end of it, right?
Yeah.
Until it gets to that final moment where he's confronting him, and I'm looking for my notes specifically on it.
It's a good suit, though. When you do the
it's a great suit. I really do like it. Yeah, you get the fight between them, which is him trying to. It's really excellent with the Prowler saying, like, she's not, this isn't worth it. Why are you doing this? Like, prove to me that this is worth doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's all very good. Just like the like, it doesn't feel like the Prowler acting out of being a villain. It feels like an uncle acting out of fear that his nephew will die.
Yeah, I agree. I really like the kind of going back to like the Spider-Verse parallel, where that's kind of what we also had with Into the Spider-Verse, where Prowler, saves Miles' life,
right,
at the expense of his.
But like the different in dynamic that I like there is because like what you get here is, and I don't like necessarily how it's built up. And again, like we rush past it a little bit, but like you get the Prowler playing against Miles. Yeah. You know that the Prowler is working against Miles, and informing on him. And then the Prowler helps him get out of Roxxon. Yeah. After having betrayed him because he felt bad. But that's all still keeping him in like this villain role, and that's how Miles sees him, like he's being villainous. But when it gets to the fight, thankfully it doesn't get the same Finn treatment, right? This is not the Prowler just being a bad guy in the game. This is more importantly Uncle Aaron being concerned that just like his brother, his nephew will die.
Yes.
Doing this kind of thing. And that's why he's fighting. And I'm like, that's such a better, more interesting angle for him than if he was just working for Roxxon and this he's like, I just gotta do it and like fight Miles. And I'm really glad they didn't go that route, because that's where I was afraid we were headed.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. There's also the scene when we first meet him where he figures out that Miles is Spider-Man.
Yes, that's very good.
It's a very good
scene. He figures it out very quick. And Miles is like, wait, what?
It's like, you're my nephew. Of course I know who you are.
Yeah. I really like the way Miles turns to Aaron for advice with Finn specifically.
Yeah.
And how Uncle Aaron helps him to unwind with the music that he was working on with his dad. That's a part of the story element that you get to play with. That's just a really great scene. That's when I was like, man, I really hope that we're not going down the shitty Prowler, just I'm a bad guy because I'm a bad guy vibe, because I was like, this Uncle Aaron shit is really, really good. For me, I thought that stuff, frankly, was better developed and then paid off than Finn's.
I'll agree with that.
But I was still so happy to have it.
The ending where there's the bit on the church in New York. I don't remember the name of the church, but when the church that Finn and Miles meet on after the reveal that Miles is Spider-Man. And then you get like at the end when he leaves the science project on that spot. I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that the goodbye Finn moment, I thought that was really nice.
Yeah.
I really like that again, like closing off Uncle Aaron's arc. At the end, he flips on Krieger. He informs on him.
Yeah.
Which gets Krieger put away, which I thought was really good because he believes in Miles enough to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very curious about what happens with the Underground from here, because we're really not clear on what they are as an entity without Finn.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, are they the paramilitary in our next game? Do they like, they don't just disappear. Like, you got that many people using this kind of tech. They're not just going to go away, even though their leader is gone.
Yeah, but it's also implied that Finn isn't necessarily their leader.
Yeah, that's weird, but not clear.
Yeah.
Because like Finn might not be their leader, but Finn also built all their toys. So it's like, and everything that they do seems in service of Finn's goal.
Yeah.
This is a little bit of the problem with the writing of the game, of like, it is never clear. And this is the same thing happened in Flag Smashers, but like, I feel like here it's a little more egregious. Like, I don't know what the goals for people who are in the Underground are. Like, they, as far as we are given narratively, they're just whatever Finn wants.
Yeah, Finn wants them to take down Roxxon, they'll take down Roxxon. But outside of that,
exactly,
what's the point?
Right. And I think that's a little bit of flaw, because I don't have clarity on what really the Underground is as an entity aside from Finn. Yeah,
I just remembered the Underground headquarters was in Fisk Tower.
Yes.
Now, right. That was, I really appreciate going back to a location and having it changed. So seeing all these things that you were in when you were Peter, but different, was fun.
Yeah, I thought that was cool too. Yeah, I just hope that if we are going to do the Underground again, I hope there is some more clarity on what exactly they were. And if they're not touched again, I'm kind of always going to be like, all right, I guess. Who would be, okay, so you need a paramilitary group, you need a mafia, and you need a big bad. So in Spider-Man 2, big bad's probably Venom. Yeah. So who's the mafia group and who's the paramilitary group? Or are they the same? I mean, I feel like the sleepy answer is Fisk. Probably. Like that Fisk just buys the Underground. I feel like that's not necessarily the wrong way to go. They are building Fisk back up for a return. So I could see him buying off the Underground. Yeah. I just hope that there's something slightly more nuanced to it than that.
Yeah, I agree
or
with
they
that.
really think about how they're writing it. But it feels like the Underground is primed to still be around for the next game, that there'll be some of the forces we're still cleaning up one way or another, just because Finn is all we lost of that.
Yeah.
Nothing else about the Underground is gone. So we'll see.
I agree. Before I think we're wrapping up.
We didn't talk about the bridge scene much, but I think that bridge scene is incredible. The rescue.
Yeah.
It was one of the main focuses of the trailer, but just an incredible scene.
The whole thing of trying to save all the people, and it does play like a quick time event, but like trying to save the bridge, trying to save the bridge pieces and the bus from falling, like all good stuff. And then when that's also the scene where you discover you can turn invisible,
right?
Which is fun. I want to speak on the mural.
The mural.
The mural,
the one that Haley's making.
Yeah, that Haley and her dad are making of just Spider-Man. And then they add Miles, and I thought that was really cute.
Yeah, I did too. I thought that was really nice.
I really like, and you get a suit in that sequence also. That the people of Harlem made you a suit.
Yeah, good.
I like
suits,
all the
suits.
I was about to say I like all the suits. All the suits are mostly original to this game. There are some from the comics, some of variant covers, but most of them are original to the game, and I think they're all really great.
Yeah, I'm glad that they're showing that they're going to be creative with their own suits, because obviously, like, most Spider-Man suits are in the first game for Peter, so like you're going to have to come up with some stuff for the next one.
I wonder if you'll get to move the suits.
I've wondered this too. We'll see. I feel like it'd be surprising if they didn't bring some of them over, but like you'd have to have access to them pretty much right away.
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't have to re-unlock a suit that's the same unless it's like an updated different look.
Because we've even got to the point where now years later, like it was like last year that they added the Amazing Spider-Man 1 suit, didn't they?
No. I believe last year they added the No Way Home suit.
I don't think they've added the No Way Home suit.
Is that not it? I don't know.
Well, they added something recently, and I really like the Amazing Spider-Man 1 suit personally. So like I would love to see some of the suits that they've recently added, like the Tobey Maguire, the Andrew Garfield. Obviously, we'll probably get the No Way Home, probably both of the suits from No Way Home, ported over in some way. And then not just mention like there's some really good suits in that first one that would be really fun to play as.
I'm trying to see if I can. Yes.
Oh, we also have it.
No, it was the No Way Home suits.
Oh,
Spider-Man No Way Home suits are in Insomniac's Spider-Man remaster. So the remaster of the original Spider-Man game does have the No Way Home suits. I'm trying to see which one specifically.
The backwards one, right?
Yes.
The inside out one.
Yes. It's the black and gold inside out and the red, gold, and blue Iron Spider suit from the end. They're both there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So those were the suits that were recently added.
So like what you've got to port some suits, or else you're not going to have a lot of suits left.
Right, exactly.
I hope they do. I like those suits a lot. I liked playing as a lot of them.
Yeah, I think they do a very good job with all of that. Yeah, I'm stoked. I hope even though like we're getting both Peter and Miles, we still keep Miles supporting cast as well in the next game.
Me too.
I want Gank. I want his mom. I want Haley still around.
Me too. I think that no offense to Peter, but I think we've lost some people in his supporting cast now.
Yeah, we really just have Mary Jane. Miles was part of the supporting cast, so like that ports over. So yeah, I hope we keep some of these characters.
Well, there's this game also has a bigger role for Gloria from Feast.
Yes,
who's now kind of taken over.
Yeah,
I like that character.
All that was really good.
Yeah, I like that we kept that going. Kind of where Feast is still important, even though now both May and Mr. Negative are gone. And like Gloria is the one who was a good character from the first game, is now kind of the one who's like really pushing for Feast to be this thing again. Right. I hope she continues to be in the game. We have Yuri,
Mhm.
That thread's got to be wrapped up probably in the next game, right?
No idea.
Yeah, I think
Probably.
we'll see a lot of Miles as supporting cast. I hope so, at least.
I hope so too. I hope we see Aaron again. I hope
Me
that
too.
comes around. I really hope that like a lot of the stuff here sticks around, because I think like in some ways, I think emotionally, like as far as like the world and Miles' connection to it, we nail some things better here than we did with the first game.
I think so too.
And I hope some of those things linger.
Yeah, I think so too. Obviously, there's a lot of plot points that they want to carry over. Like we talked about Fisk. Like Fisk is clearly being set up for some sort of comeback.
Even if it's not the next game, Fisk will come back around somehow.
Yeah. So I do think that like I hope that even though we're going to get the two of them, there's still enough room to continue to have the same kind of character growth that we had here. I could even see like, maybe there's a world where you can choose to play as one or the other. That you just play the Miles narrative and you just play the Peter narrative. I don't think that's necessarily how it would be, but that would be cool to kind of just be like, you can choose like the path you go on.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know, man. What's happening for that next game though?
Yeah. Should we talk about the Osborne post-credits tease?
I forgot about that altogether.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yes. It's because you're Harry in the tank.
Yes.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So it looks like Harry will be Venom.
I had figured after the last game ending, because like the ending of the last game also teases that whatever's happening with Harry, Venom is involved.
Yeah.
Like that's cool, man. You want to make Harry Venom? Cool.
I might be misremembering. I feel like that was a plot point in Spectacular Spider-Man. Am I wrong?
Harry became Venom?
That Harry became Venom. I thought that's what happened there.
Maybe. Yeah, Harry wakes up. At the end of this game, Harry wakes up.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if we're going to get Harry not Venom for a while in that first game, and then we kind of slowly he starts losing control.
You mean in the next game?
In the next game, yeah.
No idea. Yeah, it could go. It feels like it could go either way.
Yeah.
I suspect the way that they seem to like to make these games, I suspect we encounter Venom a lot, and then midway through learn that it's Harry.
Oh yeah, could be.
Not for us to know, but for the characters to know.
Right, because we've done that now twice, technically. Not necessarily like we weren't fighting Octavius, but like
yeah,
we were throughout the game.
We were fighting Octavius's machinations.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Tinkerer, we don't find out. Yeah, it's a good point. We might it might be a big deal.
I think like they might do some interesting story stuff because like they want us to know that Harry's Venom.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the characters, they probably don't find out until like midway through.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I like this game a lot. I cannot wait for the second one. Cannot wait for more of this world. Yeah. This is a very engaging Spider-Man universe that Insomniac has created.
Yeah, I think it's a little like the only reason people really seem to refer to this as a pared down game. Okay, I like it's two things. It's the time and into like that you would put into the game, and then as far as playing it, and that a lot of the mechanics were there's new stuff here, but a lot of it's porting over from the original. Mm-hmm. Slight like it is like a half step to the next game.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels like a full game in its own right.
Yeah,
it really does have the full experience. I feel like it's a little bit of a slight for anyone to say that like it's a lesser entry just because it's shorter.
Yeah, I think that there's been a lot of parallels made to Uncharted 4.5 essentially. Like I think it's called Lost Legacy.
Sure.
Where you don't play as Nathan Drake, you play as Chloe and another character you met in 4. And like that's kind of just like we're just putting new skins on things, and that was meant to be a DLC, and that became just a smaller game. But that's not what this is. That's not a full, complete narrative with an emotional core. There is some good emotion. There's some good narrative stuff happening in that. But this feels like a short game. Just a short game that has a beginning, middle, and end with an emotional through line that you are invested in with these characters. And outside of just what happens with Finn towards the end, like I think it's just as good as the original.
Yeah, I'd be willing to agree with a lot of that for sure.
Yeah. Shall we get out of here then?
Yes, I suppose so. That is as good a conversation I think as we can have, as far out from playing it as we both are.
I think we got an hour out of that. That's not bad.
That's not bad for two people talking about a game they probably last touched a couple months ago.
Far longer. Let's see. Hopefully Spider-Man 2. I'd like to review Spider-Man 2 and God of War Ragnarok. Hopefully those don't take that long, but we'll see.
Well, it's all a matter of how quickly can people play them and when can we coordinate a time to record about it.
Yeah, it is tough, but we did it. And I'm happy we did. So that'll do it. So, okay, I guess I'll do the outro stuff. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel. Does Ben do this at the end of his shows?
Yes.
Yeah, good for him.
Not like a lot of it, a little bit.
Yeah. Well, guys, this is Basement Arcade Pause Menu. This is generally not a show that Sparkz and I do. Sparkz has been on this far more than I have. But we did it. We talked about Spider-Man, Miles Morales. We've talked about some other games if you want, like Spider-Man we've talked about, and God of War. Mm-hmm. And there's plenty of other Basement Arcade Pause Menus without us. There's so many guys. Yeah.
Odds are that there's a good chance that you listen to the show regularly where Ben does cool and interesting interview stuff, and we've actually hijacked it for this review of a game you probably didn't want to hear about right now.
And one that Ben has not played.
One that Ben has not played, or he'd be here too.
Yes. So I hope you did get some value out of this anyway, and I'm sorry we hijacked your show, listeners and Ben, but hey, suck it. I'm the board, as we established in the last week's episode.
Brandon Board McClure.
So of course you can check out all the other Basement Arcade Pause Menus, which are really great. Hey, this is an award-winning podcast. They're there. There's a reason. You can check out some of our other shows like Fick Nerds Watch, where we're going through a couple of shows. Obi-Wan Kenobi has probably been recorded by the time this goes out, right?
Could go either way.
Yeah. Well, that's coming soon then.
Kenobi is in our atmosphere. Stranger Things is in our atmosphere for Fake Nerds Watch.
Yeah, Stranger Things is a little bit further out.
I mean, it's close though.
I know, but like
also coming out this week.
Those episode legs are that's gonna take a while to get through.
It's gonna take some time. Yeah, for sure. So you want to hear like Ben, your usual host, and our friend Ryan. We get together. We're gonna do Fake Nerds Watch. We got Kenobi. We got Miss Marvel. We got Stranger Things. All those on the horizon. The Boys, Umbrella Academy. They're also coming. A lot of shows. So if you would like those shows, go check out that. We also recently discussed Moon Knight, and there's some Star Trek shows going on. They're always getting talked about.
Star Trek Strange New Worlds is the latest one that I've been going through with Just a Little Podcast co-host Cookie, which has been a lot of fun. Of course, this house, there's also Basement Arcade. How's that coming, by the way? There hasn't been a new episode in a while.
Yeah, well, okay, like Basement Arcades take the longest time to edit.
Sure.
So there's some amount of like gutting to set in. What I'd rather do is like get more recorded and built and then release more regularly rather than like sporadic. Here's an episode. All right, quiet for a couple months. So we'll see.
Sure. Okay. Well, there are some episodes recently of Mortal Kombat X2?
Yes.
X1.
Mortal Kombat X. You're asking me like what episode it was?
Yeah.
I think we have 3 out and we have 2 more coming.
Cool. So yeah, stay tuned for that. There's of course other video game stuff if you're interested in video games. We've done a few of them.
Ben is playing with Grayson Live. If I'm sure he plugs that, but if you want to go watch him play through Mario stuff on Grayson's channel, go do that.
Yep. Elden Ring recently also.
Elden Ring.
There's, of course, also Animation Station and Fake Nerd Book Club, and our mothership show, the Fake Nerd Podcast. The Fake Nerd Podcast goes live every Sunday, where you can check out the general co-host of this show, Ben, where he and the rest of us, as far including Ryan, talk about other things. This coming episode, or this episode that has just been released, or whatever this goes out, was just Top Gun Maverick. And then coming up is a discussion on all of Pixar's movies.
Yep.
And if you didn't know, we did one on all the video game movies. So think of that, but with Pixar. So a much better output.
But before Sonic 2 came out.
Yeah. That was awful. That was terrible.
Not Sonic 2.
Not Sonic 2. Sonic 2 on Paramount Plus right now. I think I'm going to go watch it.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go watch it today.
Oh, no. I have to go to work.
I really want that Steelbook.
Oh, it's nice.
I know. I really want it.
That's a good one.
Did you get two? One for me and one for you?
Uh-huh.
That $28,000 is looking really good right now.
Does it? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anyway,
we should wrap this up.
Yeah, we should. That's you've had it. That's all you get of us giggling idiots hijacking Ben's show. Next time you see the Basement Arcade pause menu, will be Ben once again while doing an interview, most likely.
Yeah.
They're probably also going to do you guys are probably scheduling a quarterly, right? Or a halfly.
We're working on it. I won't. This is Ben's thing. I won't announce that, but there's stuff coming. Ben and I have talked about some pause menu stuff that's on the horizon.
Cool. We've got shirts and we've got a Patreon. You can find those links below, I'm sure. Our website, fakenerdpodcast.com. Fake Nerd Podcast on all social medias. I'm at BC McClure on Instagram and Twitter. If you're interested in me, if you liked hearing me talk about this thing on the show that I'm not on, you can check out my Screen Rant work where I write for Screen Rant. I do some Marvel stuff over on atomicgeekdom.com, and I edit kaijuramamedia.com, all of which you can find somewhere on my social medias at BT McClure. Sparkz?
You can find me desperately trying to find my way back to the lands between at Sparkz on Instagram and Twitter, SPARKZ Witty.
That's an Elden Ring bit.
It is, yes.
All right, and until next time. Wait, what does he say? Unpause?
Unpause.
Unpause.